I gratefully acknowledge this series was recorded on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Indigenous peoples have maintained stewardship and jurisdiction over these lands since time immemorial.
A few years down the road, I realized I was a lesbian.
Okay.
And that was both quick and sudden, actually.
And was that theoretical, or was it like you met somebody?
No, that was also theoretical.
I love it. Welcome to Mistergendered, the show where we swap labels for lived experience and get curious about life beyond the binary. Today we meet Sherine Menes, a Vancouverite and talented actor who appears in both theater and film productions. Let's join the conversation. Okay, so we're going to start out just with a kind of a snapshot orientation of where you're at today, and then we'll dig into how you got here.
Yeah.
Or there. So if you could say, your name, what's important, your culture, pronouns, identity, any of those things.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm Sherine Menes. I use they them pronouns. I identify as a non-binary person and also a lesbian. I was born and raised in Manila. So like culturally, I'm Filipino. I would say like first generation Filipino because I moved here like as a later teen.
Right.
And I'm 24.
Just kind of look back, and tell us a bit about that journey to what you just said about who you are today, and think about yourself as a kid, and just like the stages or the phases of how you got to be who you are today.
Well, first things first, I always remember blue having my assigned color. I had like cousins who were the same age as me, and we all had like assigned colors that so we would usually get the same gifts during Christmas.
Yeah.
And we all had the same colors every year. Like I would always get blue or purple. My other cousin who's like very more feminine, like really into like traditionally girly things, she like had pink. Everything
so
she had was pink.
Or toys, anything?
Yeah. Anything.
And they just said, all right, you're here, you're blue, you're pink.
Yeah. And then like my other cousin is red.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that was because I really liked blue or
they were like,
or if I don't know like which came first, like the chicken or the egg, the blue or
interesting.
the Sherine,
Have you ever asked your folks about that? Or
no, I think it was just like
Can we call them right now? I'm so fascinated.
That would be cool, but I don't think so. Right
okay,
now.
right. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and it's always just been like, I think it's also because I really didn't like pink, like growing up.
You were probably clear about that.
Yeah, I was like, this is a hard no. But yeah, ever since I was a child, I was what people would have called like a tomboy, which like in the Philippines, tomboy is just like the general term for a lesbian and or trans man.
Huh. Okay.
So everyone was always like, oh, you're tomboyish, like, and stuff. Because I didn't like dolls. I didn't like pink. I didn't like dolls. I feel like those were like the main things.
How were folks or immediate parents, extended family, cousins?
Like, it wasn't discouraged, but it wasn't encouraged either. It was kind of like oh, that's a weird kid.
Right.
Interesting. I at least that's how I felt like it was perceived. But I feel like now it's just generally pretty cool about it,
Right. So when did you come out? Like when did all that happen?
So I came out as pansexual first. And that was when I was 18. And I only really came out to my mom because that was the only one that was like important to me. I feel like my dad already knew
right,
that like I was into girls. But yeah, I was 18 and like I sat my mom down and I told her that I was pansexual. She had no idea what that meant.
So what did you say? How did you describe that for her?
I was like, I am just like into like, and like not anybody, but like I'm not really into this. I'm not into somebody because of like what their gender is.
Right.
I think that, and at that point, I've never been in a relationship. I was like, I've only had like guy crushes. So to me, it was just like, oh, anything can happen. And I don't mind anything like
So it was kind
happening.
of theoretical in a way?
Yeah,
like,
it was very
like,
theoretical.
I think I'm
It
this.
was definitely theoretical.
Okay.
I've only had like high school guy crushes and like obviously find every girl attractive that I knew.
Right.
Yeah, I came out as pansexual, and then a few years down the road, I realized I was a lesbian,
Okay.
and that was both quick and sudden, actually.
And was that theoretical or was it like you met somebody?
No, that was also theoretical.
Love it.
Yeah.
You're a good planner.
Yeah. Producer. It was less theoretical though, because I feel like it was during the time where I kissed a girl for the first time, and I was like, oh, like I knew I was into girls, but this was like the first time I've ever like kissed a girl, and I was like, okay, cool. And then after that like experience, I like dug deep into like sapphic media, and I watched every lesbian show or movie that was on Netflix at the time, and this was in 2020, so like right after the pandemic, you know.
Right.
And it's such a cliche, but it was me watching the L Word that made me go, oh yeah, yep, I'm a lesbian. And yeah, it was like 2 episodes in, and then I called my friends, like my best friend, and I was like, I think I need to come out again to everybody because I think I'm a lesbian and I don't know how to deal with that. So
Right. Yeah, if you got to see it, right? Representation.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because one thing I know we chatted about a while ago was as a child, you talked about how TV shows influenced you. Want to
yes,
chat about that a
Yeah.
bit? Like how they helped you form your kind of more butch identity? I think
yeah,
you talked
I feel
about?
like unknowingly TV shows like really formed my identity, like in a sense that my favorite cartoons were more of like the boy cartoons, whatever that meant. And I was really attached to the guy characters, and I thought it was because I had a crush on them at first.
Ah, interesting.
And then later
right.
on, like looking like back at it now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I just wanted to be them.
was identifying with them.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. Like,
Right.
and like cartoons. So
Who are some of your faves?
like one that I remember really being like, I want to be him, and I like drew him a lot, was Jake Long from The American Dragon, which was this cartoon on Disney XD, which was their like more guyish like channel. And yeah, Jake Long and Danny Phantom was like was like characters that I'm like, cool, I wanna be
like
this
that.
guy.
Right.
And then High School Musical came out, and I was 5 when it came out, and I was there from the beginning, from like when it first aired on like Disney Channel, and I really wanted to be Troy Bolin. Like, it wasn't a question of am I crushing on him? No, I wanted to be him.
Right.
And I wanted to be with Sharpay, the blonde girl, just throughout the movies. And yeah, like me and my cousins would like do the dances and like sing along, like reenact scenes. Right. And I would always just be like, I'm Troy Bolton, you know? And they had no issues with that. They were like, okay, we didn't want to be the boy anyway. Yeah, so you do that.
Right.
So yeah, I think like unknowingly TV and has been like a huge part of me forming and like exploring my identity without realizing it. Cause like I was like 6. And then like I feel like what still sticks with me now and like is the most major part of my identity was Glee, which is my favorite show of all time.
I love Glee.
I like to say that I'm like the biggest geek in Vancouver. And I will defend that title.
Okay. Not gonna challenge. Yeah.
So if anybody else wanted to challenge it, I'm just saying I will defend it.
Okay.
But I saw Glee like past its prime. So like, cause it aired in like 2009 and became like a huge phenomenon. And I got into it like a little later in 2012. And it was while at the time my hyperfixation was wrestling, pro wrestling. So, and then while I was waiting for wrestling to start, Glee was on for some like it was the show right before wrestling for some reason in the Philippines, and
so it just happened.
It just happened.
Just like, it was intervention. Clearly,
it was it was divine intervention. I think it just showed up in my like on my screen at the right time, at the right age. And I was, I guess, engaged enough with it that it really stuck with me. And this was like in season 4, and it was specifically Blaine Anderson, like Darren Cress's character, who is a gay man on the show.
Right.
And he's half Filipino. And I didn't know that, like seeing it, but I saw it on screen and I was just enchanted. Then being a tween, a 12-year-old girl, I did what most 12-year-old girls did at the time and looked up fan fiction about it.
Right.
And I feel like that's what really stuck with me. And to this day, I still like reference Blaine Anderson as like my gender exploration awakening. I feel like because like when I would read fanfics or like whatever, I like pictured myself in that character's shoes.
Right.
Yeah, and like now I do drag occasionally. I'm a drag king, and my entire like persona is just that I'm just that same character. And because that character like theoretically helped me explore my masculinity, like before I even figured out what was going on with me, now I'm able to like play with it physically, you know, like I'm actually able to like play with my masculinity through this character. And it's, yeah.
Cool. So, okay, so you came out as a lesbian, and then like tell us about the last few years, because I know if you're comfortable talking about it, you told me how, I don't know if you still are, but you were microdosing tea.
Yeah.
And how that kind of fits into who you are right now. And because you said I'm non-binary lesbian.
Yes.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I came out as a lesbian. I was very femme presenting. I had the long hair. I like to wear like skirts and everything. And then I feel like just as time progressed, I started exploring my more masked side. I got like a mullet first, really. And then I was like, oh, okay. Then I got a really masked, like a masked leaning mullet, whatever that means. And I it was a point where I was able to just like rearrange my hair that it seemed like I didn't have like hair in the back. So I just had like short boy hair. And I really liked that.
Yep.
And then I like shaved my head like on impulse. And I feel like that was the time when I realized that, okay, I'm not resonating with this femme like perception of me anymore. And it kind of just snowballed into that. I became really good friends with a bunch of people who were also on T and were identifying as T-boys. And I was like talking to them a lot about like what the T experience, like what taking testosterone, what that experience was like. And it just got me like curious and thinking. At first I was like, no, I'm good where I'm at. And then it was like this like tiny voice that never stopped in my brain. And then I feel like I was taking a shower because that's where all my thoughts come up. And I'm like, okay, like the determining factor of me pursuing like getting a prescription for tea was like, if I don't do it now, will I be thinking about this for like the rest of my life?
Right. Regret.
And the answer for that for me was like, yes, I will be curious. I will like have lived many years down the line being like, I should have done this, I should have done that. What if? And then figuring out how to get that prescription was at first a struggle because I didn't know where to look. And then, yeah, just talking to other people who also still identified as a lesbian and was also taking tea. I was like, oh, okay. So that is possible.
That's a thing.
Like that is a thing. Because I don't know, I guess like a tiny part of me was like scared that once I start taking tea, that there was this like limit of masculinity, and then I'm not part of the lesbian community anymore. Like that was like a huge fear in me. But yeah, talking to like actual people in the community, like, and like people who have like experienced the same things and the same fears, and then coming out of those fears and doing what they wanted to do, which is like, start taking tea. It was a relief and like really comforting. And like, I guess it is like that, like found sense of community of like, okay, I'm not alone and I'm not going to be like excommunicated from my community because I wanted to like be more masked or like start tea. But that has been like a really interesting like conversation in my head with myself of like, okay, at what point do I go, oh, I think I'm a trans man? I don't know if I'm ever going to get to that point, but it is like something that I'm very aware of, that I'm like, okay, are we good with our gender right now? Like every now and then I check in, I'm like, are we good with our gender right now? Because yeah, like my gender identity journey has also been like all over the place, similar to like my sexual identity journey, because I thought I was cis at some point in my life. Then I was like I'm not super cis, but like I didn't think I was like non-binary or like whatever, and like I was using she/they pronouns. Like it really was like the spectrum of like little by little. It was just the gay agenda was winning, and earlier on, it was when somebody referred to me and my girlfriend as the girls. Oh, the girls are coming over. And that felt icky to me. And that's when I started adding they to my pronouns. And then it just like gradually like they became more comfortable and it felt just more right to me.
I mean, it's so interesting that, and so important, I think, to talk about like all these variations. And, you know, you can be taking tea, but still consider yourself a lesbian. You can have top surgery. And like, I think there's a binary around, you know, you're either a lesbian and you have breasts and you're not. I mean, you can be butch or masked, but then there's a line that's drawn.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, I didn't know, you could have top surgery because that's more comfortable, but doesn't necessarily mean that you're transitioning or you want to be a man. And I can't believe how many people are surprised to hear these kinds of things. And it's so important because it's a continuum. So kind of being in the whole non-binary space, it's like we're exploring what it all means, and there isn't one definition of you know what lesbian is, what any, you know, even non-binary for that matter. So it's really great to hear these different, like your different perspective and thoughts on all of it. Cool. So do you feel like this is continuing to evolve? Like, you're probably not done.
Yeah, I think so. I'm like very early on in my like tea journey. I'm like less than a year in. And I'm still at like a very low dose. And I have no idea where this is going. I might end up deciding to stop at some point.
Yeah.
And it's just been like I have to tell myself that it's okay to like change my mind about these things.
I think there's a lot of societal pressure to be decisive, to be one thing, and stick with it, and you know, have one career. Well, that's kind of gone. That's my generation. Sorry, I'm old. But there is pressure to be decisive, and I think there's something liberating about just saying like, actually, I don't know, or thinking about it, or it might change, or so like let's check in a year. And see where you're at.
See what's up.
Cool. Okay, so let's chat about some kind of everyday realities. Do you get misgendered? Like, what's it like for you in washrooms, and do you get sir'd or ma'am'd or all or none, or
all of the above. The first time I ever got misgendered, surprisingly, was last year. I went on a trip to the Philippines.
Yep.
And like, I prefer using the women's washroom still. And like, I still identify with using the women's washroom. I just feel comfortable there, you know? And that was in the Philippines, and I'm a little taller than average for like women in the Philippines. And I had a buzz at the time. I went to the women's washroom and I fully got stopped.
Right.
Like I was like already in there, and someone was like, "Oh, sir, excuse me, sorry. The men's washroom is the other way." Right. And then I turned, and like with the most feminine voice I could ever come up with, I'm like, "Oh, no. I'm a girl."
It seems to be like a classic go-to is either if you have them, like you put your breasts out, or you go high voice. Very high voice.
So, and now that like I started tea, it's kind of like a big worry in my head. Like, I'm just very aware of how I can be perceived. So it's this, and I don't even know if like it's anything like real or if it's all just in my head. But when I go to women's washrooms, my hips start swaying like crazy. I'm like, I am walking like a Victoria's Secret model.
Like, I mean, I think the part about how people are going to respond to you, I don't think it's in your head, because you know it's not. But do you think about like on the daily, those kinds of things, like how people might respond to you depending on how you're dressed or how you like, or if you're, because I know you work in film and theater,
Yeah.
like do you ever have to think about what am I wearing or what am I gonna look like and how are people gonna respond and how am I gonna deal with that? Like,
it was like super early on into tea, and I felt like I could still really pass as like a cis woman that might just be a little, like have boyish style.
right.
When I would do my auditions, I would dress so much more femme than I used to. Before I was like, when I was more femme, I was more comfortable auditioning in like guy clothes and like more masked presenting outfits, because I'm like, oh, I still read as a woman, even if I'm like wearing like guy clothes.
Right.
And then, yeah, when I cut my hair, I started going to the gym a lot. My face started changing a little more. I felt the need to feminize the way I dressed on like for auditions.
Right.
Just to prove that I can still play a woman. And that was just like all me. That was just like all in my head, like my own insecurities, my like feeling that I'm not good enough because I'm not woman enough.
So are you starting to you're starting to be more this you and not do the kind of femme up?
I think it was because I did a film and I came in with that same mentality of I'm not gonna get this, just they're looking for like maybe somebody a little tomboyish but still femme, like still perceived as a woman. And then I ended up getting that part, and it just something clicked in me that I'm like, oh, and this is what every acting teacher and every actor says, and every director says this is like, just come bring what you can bring,
right?
And then like if you fit, you fit. If you don't,
No,
you don't.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Cool.
it's been like a quite the journey in those couple months.
Wow, that's so great. I mean, I hope that as you kind of get more comfortable in this place, that it, you find those parts that are you, and the world is changing when it's not going backwards at 1,000,000 miles an hour. What's your least favorite? I know you said girls. Are there other things that kind of bother you, like these, or are there any other terms, things that just like, oh my God?
Now that I'm like a lot more masked and like, now I get he, him a lot. Like without me saying my pronouns or whatever.
And how's that?
It's okay. I'm not like, ooh, yeah. But it's like, oh, okay, yeah. They, them pronouns are like my pronouns.
Right.
It just like secured my like my preference for like using they, them. Part of me gets like a little defensive sometimes. I'm like, no, I'm a girl.
Right.
Which is like insane to me because I'm like not a girl.
Right.
But like there's there's a little bit of resistance still of like being perceived as like a guy.
Right.
Now that it's actually happening to me, which I've found interesting because I'm like, oh, I thought this is what I wanted. And then, like dressing more masked and like taking tea, I'm like, oh yeah, I do want to be perceived a certain way, but it's not necessarily man.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been getting he, him a lot lately. And because of like, I'm aware that like I'm perceived just as a guy now. I'm more comfortable being like she, heard.
Right.
I'm more comfortable like being called a girl or like ladies or whatever isn't as icky to me.
Right. Well, it's just, again, not to say it again, but the binary, it's like we have to, like, I would love to find a way of expressing kind of what this language is, right? It's not like he or she. It's something in the middle, but people just don't. They only know how to do he or she, or okay, they can do a little they them.
Yeah.
But it's like we live somewhere in between that, and so we're, by that sort of societal pressure, we're forced to kind of be like, okay, do I like he him? Do I like she her? Whereas you're actually just like, hi.
Yeah.
My name is Sherine. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely.
How's it going?
Yeah.
I'm just here. I am who I am.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's sort of being like, it's that pressure on you to start figuring it out or making a decision when you're really just in between. I think,
I feel like earlier on, like when I was figuring out like what pronouns I'm comfortable with, like if I was ready to like deal with this in like a societal way and like socially transition. I remember telling or like explaining to one of my friends who isn't really in the queer community,
right?
About like what being non-binary meant.
Yep.
And to me, it was like, think of it as God. It's like he's both here and also not here.
Oh, interesting.
And that's how like I felt about my gender at the time. At least I was like, I am both the entire spectrum and I am not anywhere in the spectrum,
Right.
And that's how I viewed non-binariness.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I almost am disappointed if I don't get a sir or I get too many ma'ams or she's, but I don't want to be, it's like I don't want to be a man. Like that's not where I'm going.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be a lady.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some quick and snappy questions.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the first thing you do in the morning? Wake up.
I look at my phone. It's so bad.
True confessions.
True confessions.
Okay. What's your go-to comfort food?
Ooh, fried chicken. I love fried chicken.
Like anything
Jollibee.
specific? Oh yeah, okay.
Jollibee, man.
All the way. Okay. Cat or dog?
Cat. I used to think it was dog, but now interacting with
you're
more
coming
cats,
out as cat.
I'm coming out as cat.
Okay. It's all right.
I know.
It's all right.
Bunny,
Yeah, it's true.
rabbit, actually.
I know. I'm not going to tell your rabbits you said that.
Yeah. No, they don't like me anyways, so. They're like teenagers. They're like, I hate you. And I'm like, okay, whoa, calm down.
Here's some carrots. Okay, how about a queer icon that you'd love to hang out with?
Mae Martin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel Good was one of the shows that I was like watching, like when I first, like after I first kissed a girl, I was like, okay, I need to like watch something.
Such a great show.
It's a great show.
So
I love
good.
that show so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay. Are you kind of person who would like gravitate to a noisy, busy pride parade or go to a quiet beach?
Ooh, a noisy, busy pride parade.
Right.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then city or forest?
City.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of music or song or genre gets you like up and dancing?
Muna, who is a queer band, is like my go-to.
They're so great.
Like always on the Pride playlist,
Totally.
Always like yeah, they're like my favorite band of all time. But I recently got got super into Mariah Carey, and
Classic.
I've never listened. Like I've listened to like a couple songs here and there, but I never got it. Then all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, I got it.
Yeah, you need to have that. It's part of our.
So Muna and Mariah Carey.
There you go. Nice. And then what's like for you dressing? It might be right now, but like, what's the best outfit for you that just makes you feel you confident, grounded?
Like,
I mean, you look pretty sweet right now, but
thank you. A white tank top, or like a tank top of any sort, and like baggy pants. I think.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
basic, but tried and true.
Yeah. It's good. Nice. How about favorite thing or place to go or eat in Vancouver here?
Ooh. I like to save. So what I end up doing instead of like going out is I grab a tall can from the nearest liquor store, and then I go on a walk at Fall Street because I live near there, like near Johnston Park.
Yep.
That's my go-to, man.
Nice.
Especially in the summer. Oof.
Yeah. Like along the seawall.
Yeah, along the seawall.
Oh, I love that walk.
Yeah. It's a good wall.
It's a good wall. If you were to think about representation, what matters about, like, why does it matter to you and what does it mean to you?
I grew up being super into TV, and like we previously talked about, TV was like a huge formative experience for me, whether I knew it or not. Who I viewed as like representation for me was Darren Criss. And growing up, there was always like that thought of, oh, I can because he can. And that's the reason why I do what I do now, why I pursued becoming an actor, why I'm in theater, why I'm in film, is because he can do it, I can do it. Okay, cool. I'm an actor now because there is some kid like in the Philippines who's maybe a little gay, maybe not, but is feeling like they don't fit in enough. And I want to be like that bit of hope that goes, oh wait, this is possible. Because growing up, I didn't think being an actor was like remotely possible. Like I didn't think that I was like pretty enough, or like like in the Philippines, like light skin enough, you know, like that's like a major thing.
Right. Because I know you, when I asked you about coming to be on this podcast too, a bit of what you just said was that you wanted, it was really important for you to be visible for others like you or younger, or it's so important for folks to see someone and say like, man, I could do that.
Like that's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, like, not to like toot your horn, but watching the film, and like there was this scene where you guys were at a dinner party, and I remember watching that and just being so in awe of it, because that always felt like a dream to me, like something that was theoretical, like something that was something a little further than reach, you know?
Right.
And when your doc premiered, it was within reach all of a sudden. And like, and
I
think
remember that's where we first met, was at the premiere, just kind of randomly. And I always remember that because you were with a friend and you came up and said like, wow, I just never knew this was possible. Like I never knew I had a future where I had family and friends and kids and I can see it now. Yeah. For those out there watching, we're talking about a documentary, Not Quite That. It's a documentary that I was a subject of, and it's about identity and all kinds of things. It's been such a great conversation. Thank you so much
Thank you for
sharing
having
your
me.
story. Yes. Thanks for listening to Mr. Gendered, the show where we swap labels for lived experience and get curious about life beyond the binary. On Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, Mr. Gendered Pod, web, MrGendered.com, email, hello@MrGendered.com. That's MISTER. The doc, Not Quite That, is at notquitethat.ca, free to watch at TELUS Originals, Optic TV, and Knowledge Network.